My story doesn't have to end. I get to create possibilities for my life. There is no more have to. There is only get to.
Leading voices from the fringe, especially women and people of color. This season, we're all about sharing the stories and practices that will lead us all toward wholeness in our body, soul, and spirit. If you find yourself on the fringe of culture, our hope is that this podcast will help you feel like you belong and that your voice is needed in this world. It is time to live and lead with wholeness. I absolutely love conversations with women who are kicking butt and changing the world and showing up as their full self. And very recently, I was introduced to a new friends, and we have quite a few mutual friends. And our mutual friends were like, hey, you need to meet Kristy Hinds. And I was like, I've actually been following her on social media for a little while. She's got this rad social media following. She's a coach. She's a speaker. She's an author. She loves traveling. Like, basically, we're very similar to each other, except not in some ways. And I was able to hang out with this amazing woman very recently and just get into her brain a little bit and hear her heart around what does it look like for us to continue to develop women. And one of the things, Kristy, that I want to say at the outset of this recording is that you and I do share a lot of similar spaces. Writing, speaking, coaching, the travel piece. There's a lot that we have in common with each other. And I think that old school thinking would say we're competitors, and so we should not be sharing a space like this because you could take business away from me. You could be someone that would draw people into your work instead of the work that I am doing. And so I think particularly for women, I want for us to do things differently. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this season was I think that there's room for all of us. And I think there's enough work for all of us. And I want for women to link arms with each other and to not compete in a way that tears each other down, but really lifts each other up. And so that is why I wanted to have you, and I wanted to just state that because I think that will frame our conversation, and I think could be, that's worth it for some women to listen to this episode in and of itself, is we share a lot of the same spaces, and we're going to share this space together today because competition is not a thing. So are you into that?
I'm super into that. I do not live in a space of scarcity. I just Googled it. There are 7.53 billion people on the planet. So if we can't share some of that love, then something is wrong.
I do not have capacity to coach 7.53 billion people. Half of those are probably women. And yes, so we need each other. So just to tell people a little bit more specifically, you're the CEO and a coach of a company called Launch It, which focuses on entrepreneurial-minded women who are exhausted, doing things the same way, and they are ready to let their ideas take off and turn their ideas into income, which, yes, I'm here for that. These women are ready for personal development, professional development, spiritual growth, all of that. So you lead through this process called Launch It. And I thought it would be really fun to have a conversation with you today about how do we start our dreams, particularly as women. I think men, you can listen in. This is totally appropriate for you too.
Yes.
But particularly for us as women, that starting our dream, following our dreams can be a more difficult thing. There can be some more obstacles in the way. And so I would love for you to start us in this conversation around your story, because I know your story, your history has played a part in why you are now doing what you are doing. So take us back into the launch of Launch It.
Well, when I was born, no, just kidding.
I launched out of my mother's womb, ready to conquer the world.
Well, I think just the passion for Launch It and working with women. So I come from, my mother is a very strong woman, and my dad probably even before both my parents are immigrants, but I mean, I don't know if my dad like fully understood the term of feminist, like in obviously growing up, he didn't have Google, but he is definitely one. He is definitely a supporter of my mom, my sister, and I have three brothers who are also great supporters, strong grandmothers. So I just always grew up with an affinity for women, always being around cousins, aunts, things like that. So I think there was just always this propensity towards that. And then just even in my story, so I grew up and had a lot of mentoring and coaching just because I grew up in like Orange County, and had lots of opportunities that sometimes people, especially at that time, maybe like people of color did not have. And so I know what having, especially like at such an early age, having those opportunities was able to do for me, but it also affected my self-worth and my self-image, kind of being a person of like oftentimes the only person who
The
looked
only
like me.
Black woman or little Black girl, or the only person of color?
I mean, for a very long time, probably K through, well, no, my brother was there for 2 years, but when he left, so for
He
at
doesn't
least
count.
about 7 years, I was the only Black person, and I'm Afro-Latina, and so there was nobody who looked like me. So I think there was some of that, which developed, some of it, like, you become tough, but there was a side of it that, I struggled with self-identity and self-worth and image. Fast forward off to college, and then had a sexual assault experience, went through tons of stuff, just damaging my self-worth and my self-image even more. And then ended up in a really unhealthy relationship after that, much, maybe in my mid 20s, which led to me having, like, terminating a pregnancy. And so I just felt like, oh my gosh, my life is over. What am I doing? I'm a woman of faith. I'm a Christian woman. And it just felt like this was not the road that I was meant to be on. And so at that point, I ended up working in radio. And so I ended up working for CBS radio, different stations around the country for about 10 years, and ended up becoming an on-air personality. And it was like basically in that process and really getting back to church and getting involved in small groups and women's ministries and things like that, that really brought me back and showed me what it was like to dream again. What happens when all your, Langston Hughes says, as a poem, dream deferred, like what happens when all of your dreams are deferred? It feels like they're put on hold. What happens? And are they gone forever? Are they erased? And so these are all kinds of things I was wrestling with, especially as a young adult, and then recognize that, no, my story doesn't have to end. I get to create possibilities for my life. There is no more have to. There is only get to. And once I realized that, then I started, moving through with everything you can think of, like personal development, hiring coaches, therapy, all the stuff. I did all this stuff, got really focused and really clear on my vision, and realized everyone could not, afford to do that. Lots of women, just for a myriad of reasons. Maybe there was like scarcity. And I thought, what does it look like for me to be able to offer this? I'm a natural cheerleader. I love supporting people, and especially women. What does it look like to not defer your dream anymore? What if you can step into it right now and today? And then I walk them through.
So I love that. That's beautiful. I agree. I think that for so many of us women, whether it is our societal overarching context, maybe there's some theological stuff, maybe there's cultural things, or even like our personality, there's a lot that holds us back. And we do have dreams. Women have dreams, so many dreams, but there's that deferring. What are kind of the top 2 or 3 mindsets that you see most frequently in the women that are like, yeah, I want to do this, but, and they kind of shirk back again?
Yeah, well, but to me, you might as well be like, That's the new 4-letter word. Whenever you have, so I studied creative writing, I'm a writer, and whenever you have but, to me, like there's like clauses on either side. So what you're saying is, you know, for example, here's a great example. Um, Gosh, I have this really great idea, but I don't have the time, the money, the support, on and on and on and on. And what that but is saying is basically nulling and voiding the dream. What you're saying, like what that statement is really saying is there's something that I'm wishing and I'm never going to be able to do it. And we're just shutting ourselves down. And it's the same things. It's typically money for women, money, support, and time. There's different variations of it. And opportunity. So, for example, like experience. Maybe they haven't had an opportunity within like higher levels of management, or really run something on their own.
Yeah. You say on your website, I love this quote, to anyone who thinks it's too late or you've been through too much to step into your dreams, that's just not true.
Yeah.
It's not too late. It's not too much. It's not too big. It's not too audacious or outside of the box or unachievable. If you've got a dream that's within you, it's there for a reason, right?
Anything, like God is so abundant. Anything that you want and desire already exists. I mean, because we're not that imaginative, where we're imagining something beyond existence, right? Only God does that. So anything that you want, anything that we need, like God has already created it. It already exists. And it's really just getting to a place of, removing these limiting beliefs and really standing firm and then developing. I mean, you get to be disciplined. You get to be consistent no matter what it looks like. Like, does not matter. Show up every day. Even if there's nobody there, we get to still show up, because with that kind of consistency, when you put in 100%, you get 100% back every single time. And so, often it's just really next steps. And then that's how you get to the dream. Because anything that we're thinking about or desiring, honestly, any woman that I work with, I'm like, yeah, that's possible. Yeah, that's possible, because it already exists. Somebody's already doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. But not in the way that you would do it. Not in the way that you would do it, not with your voice. I think that that's one of those things that trips up me at times, and other women that I work with as well, is you're like, well, she's already doing that. Or I already know that this person already has this huge following or already has this product available. And so, there's not space for me, which is a different form of a scarcity conversation.
Oh,
so how do you help women move through those buts? The money, the time, the support, the opportunity. Like, how can we minimize those resistances?
So I just kind of go through and really, like, what lens are you looking through? We get addicted to our points of view. And who told you that point of view was right? Oftentimes we make judgments and decisions based upon things we have not researched and we don't know. So everything that you just described is very common. A woman will say, well, yeah, I have this idea to sell this thing on Etsy, but there's, 100 other people doing it. And so I don't think that I can do it. And to me, that's like great, because if nobody was doing it, you're not going to make a dime.
Yeah, right. There's not a need.
There's no need. That means you want to be an inventor, and you need a different coach for that. That's something else. You actually want something. It's like hamburgers. Of course, there's McDonald's, but that doesn't mean that that's the only hamburger place we're going to. We're going to In-N-Out.
I was going to say, what's your favorite hamburger? Now I need to know.
Yeah, definitely In-N-Out. And so it's that same idea. Like, we never have to be afraid, because exactly what you said before, we're like snowflakes. No two are alike. And people want to connect with us personally. They're going to connect with your story. So it's less sometimes about the product. It's great. Actually, in business, you need a product that is out there. You don't want to start something where you're inventing it and there's no market for it. Uh, so in terms of that, you never have to be afraid of that. And really, the customers, the clients, the people that you're going to work with, there's a million coaches out there. I don't expect to work with anyone and everyone. I'm going to work with the people who, we're aligned and our stories connect.
Yeah. So you have this process called Launch It that helps entrepreneurs or women. I like how you even phrase it as entrepreneurial minded women. Like they're not entrepreneurs quite yet, maybe, but they've got a mindset towards that. There's a desire or a passion for that, a willingness to step into it. So when somebody comes to you and they're like, Kristy, I'm in. I want to do Launch It. I have this idea. I have a product. I want to solve a problem. What is the first step in Launch It?
So the very first step is we're going to work on vision. So what is your, what I was ask the woman, what's your vision? Like in three areas, what's your vision for the world? And usually people, women will get a little freaked out. Like, what are you talking about? What's my vision for the world? But really, what significance do you want to bring? We each get to add a piece. And if the idea doesn't have any significance, then we get to go back to the drawing board. So what is it that you want to see? Because that's also going to determine, are you doing something that's within your passion? So if your passion is to see, let's say, no more racism, in the world, or all, breastfeeding is totally okay and everyone can do that in public. Okay, let's say that's a woman's dream for the world, and women and feeding their babies will be seen as something pure and beautiful and natural. Well, then, the next question would be, okay, so what is your vision for yourself? And then maybe the idea is connected to that in terms of, okay, well, for myself, this is the kind of life that I want to have, and this is what I want to create for those women who are the ones who are breastfeeding. And that's where the idea comes up. And so maybe the woman wants to create some kind of campaign, or she wants to become a social media influencer. She wants to develop a blog. Let's say it's a blog that she wants to develop, and she wants the blog to be monetized so that she can earn extra money and she can talk about this subject. Okay, well, great. So now we have the thing that you can do is connected to your bigger vision for the world. And then the next step is, what is your vision for your team? Because we get to work in community, right? No one is siloed. And even if, as a blogger, as a writer, we don't do things alone. So who is your team? Is it your, friends, family, a spouse, a partner? Like, who is that? And then what is your vision for them and yourself? How do you work in community? How do you work in communion together? How do they support you? How do you support them? Because to me, that's really the first thing, is to get really grounded. And that's a way of explaining your why. Because you'll give up. If you don't have like a deeper why, if the why is, it needs to be bigger than just making additional income. Like there needs to be some significance there. And once we get there, then that's the first step, and then we move forward.
That's incredible. I launched Azer & Co. March of 2019. And I told you when we had coffee, I wish I had you a year and a half ago. I wish I knew you back then, because I would have been calling you and you would have saved me time and money, because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I still don't a lot of days, but certainly starting with the why was an important piece of that process. Mm-hmm. And having the team, I think that is critical, because a lot of times if you are an entrepreneur, if you're starting something new, it is just you.
Yep.
And you will not be sustainable when it is just you. You will quit because this is way too hard. You're not going to make money fast enough most of the time. Yep. You aren't going to change the world as quickly as you imagine it to look. And that team of people will weight you in, anchor you to the grander vision, how you want to change the world, how it's going to impact you. And I'm very grateful that somehow, by the grace of God and some maybe leadership lessons I've learned in the past, starting a team was one of the first things that I did. And my advisory board is just baller. And they are 9 people that are continually holding me to this grander vision, and walking with me, And so I love to hear that. I think that women actually do that naturally in our life, that we want to gather people that are in similar places. And so to be able to do that with Launch It, I think is really great. Can you share a little bit more of just like that process, or what you have learned in walking with entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial minded women to launch their dreams? What have you seen? What have you learned?
Typically, I think in the very beginning, everyone is looking for steps. Like, okay, what is my next step? How do I turn this into an LLC? Like, how do I make money? What is how do I get followers on Instagram? And we walk back. I mean, because we do end up going through that, but we get to walk that back. So now that we know who your team is going to be, now we know the vision, we know the deeper why and all of those things, that really the next step is to uncover like the limiting beliefs, because those are crazy. All the negative self-talk, I feel like, especially for women, when you're promoting on social media, there is going to be somebody who comes on there and tells you that you are crap, you are doing the wrong thing, they don't like your post, they don't like you, why are you wearing that? I don't like your face.
Please tell me nobody has said, I don't like your face.
Yes, you get crazy things.
Wow.
People just, they'll report you.
So basically, it's really fun to start something.
It's so fun. So get like uncovering what the limiting beliefs are. Like, where are the places that typically you stop at, and where do you know? So getting ahead. Where do you typically bottleneck at? And we look at, when I work with clients, I look at 8 areas of their life. So not just the business. We look at community. We look at recreation. We look at health and fitness. We look at relationships. So we're looking at career and education. So we're looking at all these places. Where are you at in this space? Because it's not therapy. So we're not really looking at like, family and origin stuff, but where are you at right now? What are things how would you like these areas to look? Because I believe how you do anything is how you do everything. So if there are places here that are not working or that are bottlenecking, there's probably a theme that we need to uncover. There's something that you're believing about yourself that most likely isn't true, and it's going to show up over here. It's going to transition to the business. So let's catch that. So there's some exercises that I walk women through. We do all of that. And then once that comes up, then they're like, okay, I trust you, because at first I was wondering why we're not talking about,
the practicalities.
Yeah, the practicalities of this business and who my clients are going to be. But then, we go through that whole stage. And then once we get there, then it starts coming down to creating daily habits. How much time are you actually putting into this business? What kind of schedule are you creating? How are you asking your team to hold you high, hold you accountable? Who's your accountability, even outside of me? What ideas are you implementing each week, and developing systems?
Okay, so I think that there's probably a good portion of people listening right now that would say, you know what, Kristy, I don't want to start a new business. I don't want to start a company. I wouldn't consider myself an entrepreneur, but I want to change some things in my life. I want to start a new habit. When we're recording this, it's still January. So there's still conversation around this 2020 vision for your life. And we're still talking about like having our goals for the year, our one word. But once this month drops off, most people stop doing those things as well. Even though they have a dream. Yeah. They have a dream to lose 20 pounds, or they have a dream to go to Europe in the next year, or they have a dream to, run a half marathon, or quit a job, or, fill in the blank, apply for grad school. So as a coach, as someone who has walked with people that have dreams, what would you say to just those everyday, ordinary leaders who are wanting to pursue a dream but are a little bit stuck?
And those are some of my clients. I have clients who I everything in my life is going great, but I haven't had a date in 9 years. And that is my goal, to have a date in the next 6 months. And really it's about practical steps. And so I would say with any dream, um, really it gets to be about developing small daily habits to begin to train yourself not to break your own heart, not to break promises to yourself. Every day, I think, especially women, um, we trade, we opt out of the things that we want, and we opt into anything that you're choosing out of something else to choose into this thing. And often it's choosing out of who we are, what we want, um, a lot of denying of our dreams. And so it's really looking at, okay, so what is it that's taking up your time? Come January, you fell off, didn't go to the gym, that ended, and you had a goal of losing 10 pounds, right? 2 weeks in, it was like, yeah, I'm done. So we really like niche down a week. What does your time look like? What we would go through, what habits do you have in place other than just a desire to go or sheer will? So if I have to do something on sheer will, that probably will last about 2 hours.
Totally. My willpower is not very powerful.
It really comes from developing daily habits, and the kind of habits that are sustainable, so that it's not, oh, I have to do this morning, but, oh, I get to do this. I get to, and whatever it is, maybe it's like 15 minutes of quiet time, but it's getting to a place where you keep promises to yourself, because that experience is glorious. And you would not believe how many people really don't keep promises to themselves. Like, they break their own heart every single day.
Yeah, I have told a story recently about how a year ago I started January 2019 with a goal to lose 10 pounds. I just knew it wasn't about the scale. It was about what was healthy for me and carrying around baggage, literally, in my body. And my goal was to lose 10 pounds by February 28th, 2019. And I had 2 girlfriends, and we were going to do weigh-in Wednesdays and let each other know. We're going to take a picture of our feet on the scale with the number and send them to each other every Wednesday morning. I was the heaviest one in the group, which, was kind of ridiculous because I've always been kind of petite. And so I felt like, the biggest girl in the group. And by the end of February 2019, I had lost 2 pounds. One of the other friends had gained weight. And the third one was basically at the same spot. And we were just like a tragic mess of not accomplishing our goals. And I've been exploring like both that, the relationship that we had with each other and my own internal conversation for the last 10 months now. And one of the things that has become very clear is we did not talk about our habits. So we had a weigh-in Wednesday. That was a habit. And we had a specific number that we wanted to achieve by the end of February 2019. But we didn't talk about like, how are we going to eat differently? How are we going to move differently? What's our commitment to those things? What's our relationship with food? What are some of those self-limiting beliefs that we have? It was just about the end. And I have learned that the end accomplishes itself if you have the right process, structure, habits in place. You'll naturally get those results. And so I think that is really good for leaders. And the not breaking your heart piece. It's when you break a promise to yourself, it lowers your confidence in what you can actually do.
That's how we end up exhausted and stuck. We are actually, I believe, even in myself, my own experience was I was brokenhearted. I had all these dreams for my life, and they were diminished. And I was ashamed for choices that I made, sad for ways that I had felt violated and felt robbed, heartbroken for opportunities that had been passed over. But God redeems time. And once I realized that I played a part and that I would not be a person, I would protect like my inner child, I would be the person um, to love myself the way that God loved me. Well, then I start my day with God and I start my day with me. And so I work with clients saying, let's create some daily habits, some things that are going to hold you high, things that are going to support you, things that feel good. Because when you are consistent every single day, you will gain confidence. You will begin to, like, there's a lot of self mastery that happens. And then, because how you do anything is how you do everything, it begins to translate into other areas of your life. So you have athletes who are like dominate in their field and they turn out to be great business people. And people are like, well, how did that happen? Because they have the same habits. How you do anything is how you do everything. It translates. And really, so it's not like I'm so brilliant to come up with this. Really, The Karate Kid. I love that movie. Ralph Macchio. I had a big crush on Ralph Macchio when I was a kid. And you had the Karate Kid. You had Mr. Miyagi having him do the wax on, wax off, and he's painting the fence. And he's like, why am I doing this? Waxing cars. And then at the end, he does the big crane move. And everything that he had learned from these daily habits is what won him the match and, like the title, even on a broken leg. And so it's the same thing. I mean, that's really the metaphor for any dream. Building these daily habits and things that support you will move you into being consistent. And because the dream is there, because everything you need for it exists.
So behind you on the wall, people can't see you, but you've got a quote behind your head that says, "This is the way, walk in it." It's not just a quote, it's a verse from scripture.
Yes.
And I'm wondering that for those who are listening right now, if you could give us a word of challenge about the way we need to walk in.
Yeah. I would say I especially love that scripture because it says that whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. So often we're afraid of failure. We're afraid of making a wrong turn. We're afraid of, well, if I go this way, then maybe I should have gone that way. And then I'm going to have to start all over. No, you get to start all over. It's totally fine. What if you couldn't fail? Because truly, that it's not something to be afraid of. Everybody does. It's part of the process. And instead of looking at failure as something to be afraid of, because it's not an end, failure helps us. It's saying, okay, this isn't working, and we'll just keep going from here. We get new and fresh ideas, and we keep moving forward. And so my challenge to anyone listening would be, listen to that inner voice. You're going to have all kinds of distractions to the left and to the right. You're going to have people telling you, are you crazy? You shouldn't be doing this. What are you thinking? I mean, at this adult point in my life, I went back to school on scholarship. At UCLA, people were like, oh my gosh, when I was first applying, like, that's such an expensive school. And, all of these things, I'm not 18 anymore. And I just didn't worry about it because I knew that it's possible. And until God says otherwise. And so the challenge would be to really connect and align yourself, like listen, take time to listen, make room, reflect, journal. What is the thing that just will not go away? What is that burning desire that you've been thinking about? And you're like, oh, I really should do something with that. Because that is the direction that you get to walk in. And once, 100% of the time, in my experience, once you say yes to that, once you raise your hand, then God shows you the how. It's really us saying, yes to the what and naming it. And then, you get to just listen for God's guidance to walk in it and just say yes. Step into opportunities. Just say yes. You're not going to be ruined. Everything's going to be okay. And get a coach.
Get a coach. That was going to be another question. But first, I need to point out one of the words you've said most frequently since we started this conversation 35 minutes ago
Yeah.
is you have used the word get. And it is a powerful word that dictates our engagement and our energy and our movement, is that we get to do these things. We don't have to. It's not a punishment. It's not a demand. It's a privilege. And we get to participate in our life. We get to add value to the world. We get to start our dreams. We get to not break our hearts every single day. And so you've said that so many times. I want to make sure that people hear that, because how you are talking about your life makes a difference in how you actually are participating in your own life. So yes, get a coach. Tell us what you think are a couple of benefits of having a coach work with you.
I would say the top benefit to me in my own experience, I still have a coach, is accountability and feedback. Those are the two top things. I need someone to be honest with me, that I have developed a relationship with. However, they have no ulterior motive, to get me to go to the left or to the right. They are solely there to help me move forward, and really not help, because I have a thing about help. I feel like babies need help. Adults need support. And so the person is there. And yeah, I have a brother who's worked through a lot of disabilities. And so to me, like, help and support look really, really different. And so, yeah, I would say the benefits of having a coach is feedback, having someone tell you what they feel like is working or not working. You get to choose, what you want to take from that feedback, what resonates with you. And then also the accountability. It's like when school ends, all of a sudden we think, oh, I don't need accountability anymore, because obviously school really works, because you get an assignment, you have a due date, and you have a teacher or professor or someone, your parent, who's going to follow up. Did you get that stuff done? And then little by little, you go through and you achieve your goals, you graduate. Why does that stop? Because clearly it works. And when we have someone holding us accountable, to me, that is holding us high. That is saying, like, I'm working towards it. I will not fail myself. I will not break my own heart. I have told somebody about this promise that I made to myself this week, and I'm going to get these things done. And if for some reason along the way it's not working out, then I'm going to call my coach, and I get to ask for support.
I love it. That's great. All right. We need to wrap up this episode, but I want to ask you 3 questions that I'm asking every guest, because these are things that we care deeply about in my company. Wellness or wholeness in life and leadership, and partnership with men. And so 3 questions, 60 seconds or less, just like your quick gut response. You ready?
Okay. Ready.
All right. First question is, how can women be activated toward wholeness in their life and leadership?
Know what you want.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Know what you want. Don't back down. Know what you want. Go for it.
Beautiful. Second one is, what's the number one practice that leads you towards wholeness?
Prayer.
What does that look like for you?
That looks like prayer all day, but it looks like being very specific with God. So knowing what I want and getting, not some kind of fluff prayer, like telling Jesus everything that's happening in my life, so that I feel good about it, and I'm talking about it, and there's nothing hidden.
Yeah, I love that. Last question is, how can men use their privilege to partner with women better?
Ask questions, because you don't know until you know. So, ask. I think if more men were asking questions, they would have better answers and more opportunities for engagement.
Yeah, and what I hear you say there is curious questions.
Yeah,
not like
sure.
Closed questions,
not
or I already know the answer to my question.
No. What do you think? Start there and be open, and men asking questions to get input, and Men asking women for feedback. The greatest question you can ask someone, I learned this from someone else, and it has revolutionized my life. How are you experiencing me? When I led a staff, that is a question I would ask them. And it's not always the greatest answer. It's not always the answer that I want to hear, but it's the feedback that every leader needs. How are you experiencing me?
I used to ask the same question, but I would ask it as, what is it like to be on the other side of me?
100%.
It's so hard, but leaders got to get that feedback. If you're not getting that feedback, then absolute power corrupts absolutely. We're seeing it all the time these days. So, yeah. Kristy, you're fantastic. I love sharing this space with you. And I want people to find you online, follow you, hire you, join up for your programs, all of that. So you've got a podcast and a book that we are going to link to the show notes. But like website, social media wise, how can the people of the world find you?
Website, KristyHinds.com, KristyHinds.com. And then on Instagram is probably the best place to find me. And it's the @ same name, Kristy Hinds Coaching.
Love it. Okay. We will link it all. And thank you. Thank you for investing in women, leading women, helping us to live out our dreams. The world is a better place because of your coaching, because of the way that you have integrated your life, the ways that you're about your own wholeness. And I'm grateful that we get to live in neighboring counties of America. And I hope and pray that we get to do some more work together in the future. So,
me too, April. Thank you.
Thanks for listening today, friends. You can listen to previous episodes on our website, azerandco.com/podcast. If you're finding value, please become a patron with the link in the show notes. It costs real dollars and loads of time to produce this podcast, and your dollars make it possible for us to keep doing this work. If you're not already, take a second to subscribe so you won't miss a thing. It also means a ton when you tap your screen to rate, review, and share this podcast with others. All of that allows us to continue sharing voices from the fringe for the betterment of our world. Peace.
Hey friends, do you love podcasts like the one you just listened to? Have you ever dreamed about having your own? Well, my name is Michael and I work for TruthWork Media. We believe that everyone has a story and every story deserves a podcast. Let us help you get started. Look us up at www.truthworkmedia.com, fill out our questionnaire, and I'll schedule a time to talk. It's really that easy. TruthWork Media. Everyone has a story. Yours needs a podcast.